Hey everybody, Sam Dog, the infamous 253, coming at you live with Brendan Nelson as we get ready to do the preview for our now Sunday night game between the Seahawks and the Arizona Cardinals. Brendan, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Sam. Thank you for having me on once again.
Oh, no problem, man. Appreciate you coming on and doing this with me once again. And now, this is one of the matchups that we've been waiting for a while, ever since all these offseason moves that Arizona has pulled. And we know it's not going to be easy with all the weapons they have now ever since and obviously we know they still got Larry Fitzgerald, obviously added DeAndre Hopkins, and we still got to face Andy Isabella and Christian Kirk in that receiver core, and then of course the shifty and mobile Kyler Murray, which obviously he has been looking a lot better than what he was looking his rookie year, and definitely taking a big step up from his rookie year. So first key obviously will have to be forcing Kyler Murray to throw interceptions and trying to get some pressure and at least generate a few sacks in this game. What is your take for us for winning this one first for the first take? Would you agree with that? Like forcing a few Murray interceptions and trying to get some sacks on him?
Yeah, I mean, Kyler obviously is a very dynamic and very good player. He does some things that no other player in the league right now, except for, I guess you would say, Lamar Jackson, can do. And he's a threat, but he's made a lot of mistakes this year already. He's had a lot of turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
He's had turnovers that has cost that team some games. They've had a couple games that they probably should have won that they lost because Kyler was turning the ball over. So if you take a look at the Seahawks defense through 5 games, if they've been good at one thing, it's been forcing turnovers. So to me, that's the recipe. I think that, they've got a nice little receiver core built around, of course, DeAndre Hopkins. And I'm a fan of Christian Kirk and Andy Isabella as well. I like both those guys coming out of the draft.
Yeah,
So they're going to make their plays. They're going to get their points. I don't think there's any expectation here that our defense is just going to shut them out.
exactly.
But if we can get a couple of turnovers, I think we'll be fine. I think we will be fine.
And then, of course, continuing to let Russ cook. The only positive I really see in this one is no Chandler Jones this year, since Chandler Jones is injured. And obviously, I hope he, has a speedy recovery, but he had a season-ending surgery. So Chandler Jones is out for the year. So that's obviously a huge loss for that defense. And then also, we got the issue now going up against Buda Baker, former Husky Buda Baker. We know how good he's been coming off of the safety blitz and getting interceptions. And then, of course, another former Husky, Byron Murphy. So that secondary is still tough, even with an older now Patrick Peterson. So how do we attack this secondary, and how much will also our tight ends be in effect, because we know they're going to try and cover DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett tight too. And of course, David Moore and Freddie Swain and whoever else we're going to have out there. I mean, it's going to be a tough matchup with that secondary, and Arizona has a pretty good secondary with just a few of those guys to name. What's your thoughts going into that matchup?
I honestly feel pretty good about our matchup against Arizona's defense. It's been a pretty decent defense so far, but they don't have Chandler Jones now, which he was their best player, and it's not particularly close. He was their most impactful defensive player. And to me, the interesting thing happening in this game is Arizona last year, and to a certain extent so far this year, was kind of known for not really covering opposing tight ends. I think that last year, the indication was Kingsbury's philosophy when it came to defending tight ends was just let them run wild and we'll worry about the rest. So if that carries over into this season, and so far it seems like it might be, Greg Olson and Will Dissly, it might be their game. It might be their game to go do something, because in the most recent Seahawks game against the Vikings, we really did not utilize our tight ends as much as we should have, and that almost cost us that game.
Right.
So I want to see this Seahawks offense. First, I want to see them go off, because we're playing a Cardinals team that doesn't have their best pass rusher. We're playing a Cardinals team that they do have a good secondary, but Patrick Peterson in particular is not what he used to be at all. In fact, I think at this point you can't even really call him an over the top good corner. I want this offense to do very well, but I think one of the things we can do is feature our tight ends a little more.
Yeah, and could this also, since he finally got into practicing since, he had that surgery. Could we possibly see, and I'm hoping this happens, I would like to see a coming out party for Colby Parkinson.
Yeah, apparently Colby's ready to go. Maybe he'll get involved in there. It's an uphill battle for him because we've got 3 tight ends ahead of him on the right now. Definitively, like I'm not crazy about Jacob Hollister, but as of right now, he's probably the 3rd tight end. So it's hard for Colby to get on the field. That being said, he is a matchup nightmare, and there are certain situations where you'd like to see him out there to make some plays in the red zone. So maybe so. I'm excited to see him because I like Colby.
Yeah, he was pretty. I like what I saw from his numbers that he put up at Stanford, having, I think, only 1 drop in college in his last year before coming to the Seahawks too. And then another thing is, I've seen that prior to, that matchup against Dallas, that Arizona has struggled a bit against running attacks too. So we need to be able to, get Chris Carson going, and I don't know if we get Hyde back, or maybe if we could see a little bit more DJ Dallas, but how much do you expect us to run the ball on Arizona, with Chandler Jones missing, and with what they've given up in the running attacks so far this year? I mean, how much do you expect of us to use Chris Carson in this game?
Yeah, I think that pretty much every game we play, we should be seeing a decent amount of running the ball. If Mike Upati isn't out there, and it looks like he's going to be out there, that hurts things. That was one thing that happened in that Minnesota game. We didn't have Upati, and you noticed it in the run game. The run game struggled more than usual because we didn't have any Mike Upati. So if he's back this week, that obviously helps a lot. So, yeah, to me, this Arizona defense is just not remarkably good, and the weather should be good. It's a game in Arizona. Weather should not be a factor. So to me, this is a game where everything on the offense should just work. The running game should work. The passing game should work. The short stuff, the long stuff. I'm looking for some offensive fireworks that we haven't really seen the last 2 games.
And hopefully playing at night should help now too, since the game got, flexed to Sunday Night Football.
Yeah. I don't know if that really changes anything, but I don't think it's a bad thing either.
Yeah, it was just a thought. I saw it earlier with, them flexing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Las Vegas Raiders game to the earlier slate because the Raiders had that COVID outbreak with their whole offensive line, and then our game being shifted to the primetime game, which, don't get me wrong, I like playing in the primetime games too. But another thing I also like to know is, what are the chances of us getting Jamal Adams? Because my buddy Anish has been saying some things that I don't know if Jamal Adams is going to be back yet. So, and that's a little bit of probably one of my biggest concerns, is the chances of us having Jamal Adams this game. And that's going to be tough, especially going up against that offense with, Kenyon Drake running the ball too, and Chase Edmonds, and then, of course, the receiver core.
Yeah, it's a concern. The fact that he did not practice on Wednesday is definitely something that I wasn't expecting, and definitely something I'm watching for. I've said for a while that I expect Adams to play in this game, and I still do, but if we don't hear anything good out of Thursday practice, which we will be hearing about shortly, it's starting to look like a problem. And, a groin injury is something that you don't really know about until it actually gets better. So it's not the most shocking thing in the world if this ends up taking longer than expected.
Yeah,
But
because I think the severity of his was mostly 6 weeks, because, a groin is something you got to let heal naturally.
so, yeah, but at the same time, if he has to sit out a couple more games, then so be it. We need Jamal Adams for the playoffs and the playoff push. We don't need him early in the season in October. We have to keep our priorities straight. So, if the doctors make that determination, I'm not really going to have too much to say about it. It will be disappointing. If Jamal does not play, then the guy I'm really looking to on the defense right now is Jordan Brooks, because playing against this Arizona team is one of the main reasons why I think we drafted him.
Yeah, but hopefully he can just try not to, get hurt again. But also another thing is the running attack. And you know how much it changed last year when they made the trade for Kenyon Drake. We know how good Kenyon Drake is now with Arizona. He was good coming out of the Miami Dolphins system. And I still don't get why the hell the Dolphins ever thought about trading Kenyon Drake. And are we going to get Rasheem Green back possibly this week off of IR for our pass rush and run stopping? And then how much of this is going to come, through a bunch of Kenyon Drake runs? And we're going to obviously need Jaron Reed and Benson Mayowa and our run stopping defense with Alton Robinson to be ultimately prepared for Kenyon Drake runs, other than trying to get pressure on Kyler Murray and prevent him and getting, gap containment and preventing Kyler from busting out some big runs too. Because there's another one of those games where we know gap containment is going to be huge for if Kyler Murray decides to run the ball on us.
Yeah, was there a question in there?
Yeah, what do you expect for us to, try to shut down and limit the damage of Kenyon Drake and Chase Edmonds?
Right. So, the run defense is coming off their first bad game of the season. Obviously, they played very poorly against the Vikings. They got run all over. So my thing is that, for one, is Snacks going to play? And it sounds like, and I expect him to play. And if Snacks is in there, that changes things a good amount. And to me, one thing that really hurt our run defense against the Vikings last week was Cody Barton. I thought Cody Barton played a terrible game, and I thought that Cody Barton was a big part of the problem in us giving up those 200 rushing yards.
Right.
It sounds like we're pretty much giving up on Barton, at least for the time being, because we signed Michael Kendricks yesterday, and now Jordan Brooks is coming back. So that should change the formula a little bit. Now, part of that formula, unfortunately, is getting Jamal Adams back. He may not be back anytime. He might not be back in time for this game, but I think getting Cody Barton off the field in favor of somebody who's just better at stopping the run will help.
Yeah, hopefully we can play that factor. And then we got to get to the part of shutting down DeAndre Hopkins. And now, is that going to be the matchup of Shaquille Griffin? And granted, they still have old, reliable Larry Fitzgerald. Where do Quentin Dunbar, Quandre Diggs, and Shaquille Griffin come in on this matchup, against Hopkins, and Fitzgerald, and then, of course, Andy Isabella? We're going to have to start playing we got to at least play some tough man coverage, instead of playing 5 yards off our guy, hence they were able to get a bunch of every receiver quarter we face has been able to get big chunk plays. It's we got to start, my opinion is we need to start playing some more tight man coverage. And what are your thoughts about that?
Well, there's no shutting down DeAndre Hopkins. He's probably the best receiver in football. I'm not asking this team to do that. I'm not asking this defense to do that. I'm not even asking them to, hold Arizona under 20 points or anything like that. The bye week should have given this team some opportunity to look at what they were doing and try to get better at it.
And readjust.
Right. That should have happened, but this Arizona offense is good and it's dynamic. So I'm going to this game and I'm already saying to myself, DeAndre Hopkins is probably going to have a pretty good game.
And I agree with that. I expect Hopkins to at least break off over 100 yards on us in this game.
Yeah. So my question is, can the defense do what it's done all season, which is make big plays in crucial situations to force turnovers, get off the field on 4th down?
And 3rd and long.
Yeah, and 3rd and long. And basically just continue to be the defense we've seen through the start of the season. 95% of the plays, they're bad, but the 5% of the most important plays, they've been pretty good. And that's gotten us these wins. They've come up with the big plays when they've needed it the most. That's all I can ask for. So get those turnovers, get the ball back to the offense, because my expectation is that this Seahawks offense has a very good game. And if they don't, there may be a problem brewing there, because that'll be 3 games in a row where the offense didn't really do what I was expecting. So all I can say right now is get the ball back to the offense and let them take care of it.
And let Russ continue his good season. And we got to have Metcalf go off. Lockett needs to go off. We got to at least score maybe 4 to 5. We got to at least put over 30 points if we want to beat Arizona. That's for sure. It's going to take maybe 4 or 5 touchdowns. I don't care how we get it. Just get it done. Just as long as we have the lead in the end, as long as we make Kyler Murray make the mistakes that lost him the game against Detroit and lost him the game against Carolina, then we can win this game,
Yeah. And the big thing is, for me, we know that the Seahawks are going to lose games at some point. We know that there's going to come a game where we just don't play well. The other team maybe plays really well. Whatever may happen, we're going to lose games eventually. And this is one of the games that, as of right now, looks losable. But we are coming off a bye week, and Arizona's coming off a short week because they played on Monday night. You got to be able to take advantage of that. You got to be able to take advantage of that.
I agree, man. I mean, and I just hope we don't, but I just hope we don't show any rust. Like, we cannot afford a slow start against this Cardinals team in the first half, and especially early in the first half too, since now we know what they truly got.
Right.
Yep. Obviously, this could be a losable game. Wouldn't be surprised, but obviously, still hope we win. But
I feel good about this game overall. I'll say that. I feel pretty good. This doesn't strike me as the first loss. I'm just not feeling it. Arizona must feel like they're on top of the world right now after what they did to Dallas last week too. So, usually when you get too big of a head, it comes back down. Your head gets pushed in a little bit. So
basically let them set themselves up for a letdown.
Yeah, so after a game like what they had against Dallas, you might end up seeing something like that. Kind of like what they had against the Lions, They were feeling really good going into that Detroit game, and things just happened and they dropped it.
And then they dropped one to Carolina the following week.
Right. So, yeah, I feel good about this one. The offensive line should have no excuse. The offense as a whole doesn't have an excuse because we came in with a bad game plan against the Vikings.
Right.
The game plan against the Vikings was bad, and the offense was pretty bad that whole game. So we've had 2 weeks to try to work on that and figure it out and do better. So it better be better on Sunday is what I'm saying.
It has to be. Other than that, one more thing we should talk about going into this thing really quick that I kind of wanted to touch up on, and this whole Antonio Brown thing. I mean, one thing for sure is if we were to give him that chance, it's for me, all I got to say for AB is just don't fuck it up. That's all I got to say is he cannot afford to fuck it up because he already lost out on so much more money and a bunch of other stuff too. It's just could not afford to have him fuck it up. Otherwise, he may be done for good. I mean, granted, I just watched your video about it where he had that 4 straight years as an all-pro, which granted on the field, but if he just, keeps his head straight and doesn't get in this trouble off the field and a bunch of other stuff, then maybe we should be good. But doesn't necessarily mean Pete and John are going to actually go through with it, though. But we can only wait and see. That's basically all.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen. I do. I feel like it's going to happen right now. I think that at a certain point, they need to make Wilson feel like he has some power in this organization, and I know he doesn't, but he wanted superstars this offseason, and we got him Greg Olsen and Brandon Shell. And I mean, not that those guys are bad players. In fact, I think Shell's playing better. I think Olsen's playing effectively for the most part.
Okay.
I think at a certain point you need to say our $40 million QB, who's probably going to be league MVP this year, wants Antonio Brown. You got to go with it because, yeah, it's a risk to bring him in. It's also a risk to not bring him in. We are not just talking about a good receiver. It's not like we now have the opportunity to go get somebody like, Jason Witten, who was a great tight end 10 years ago. This is a guy who is a great a great wide receiver 2 years ago. And not only that, he was one of the greatest receivers in NFL history. I think people miss that. So there's a risk in bringing him in, but there's also a risk in not bringing him in. So I think it's probably worth it. I think that he was trying to put some of this stuff behind him last year, and then some stuff from his past came back to the point where the Patriots just had to get him out.
Yeah.
But I would go for it.
Yeah, and then also, I mean, I guess another concern for me is taking away passes to Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf too with this too. I mean, hopefully that we can still get them their passes and scores too, because I like the production that we still have regardless with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett too.
Well, for one, DK is producing even though he's only catching like 4 passes a game. That's kind of the beauty of DK Metcalf. He's making so many big plays. he's getting so many yards after the catch. He can have a dominant game and only catch 4 passes. So I'm not so worried about that. And, Lockett maybe so, and some of these other players maybe so, but for one, the reason why this is a possibility to a certain degree is because the offense hasn't played that great the last 2 games. Like, if we had dropped 45 points on Miami and Minnesota, I don't think we would be having this AB conversation so much right now.
Right.
But we played okay against Miami on offense, and we played pretty terrible against the Vikings on offense. So, Lockett's dropping passes this year.
Yeah.
I love Lockett, of course. I'm not trying to say Lockett's bad now. Lockett's dropped passes. We know Metcalf and his drops. David Moore dropped what would have been a game-breaking touchdown against the Vikings.
Yeah, I remember that.
To a certain degree, these players are performing at a level that makes it feasible that we could go get AB. If those guys were playing perfect, we probably wouldn't be having these conversations, but they're dropping passes. If you're DK Metcalf, you're fumbling at the 1-yard line because you thought the play was over, or so yeah.
Got to finish plays and got to catch those balls. Other than that, is that basically everything we got to take that we got in there?
Yeah, I think so. And, if we win this game and the 49ers lose their game to the Patriots, which I think they probably will, the margin between us and the 49ers is going to be pretty much insurmountable because they're going to be capped at 12-4.
Right.
And if we win this game, we're thinking about things much better than 12-4, I think. So we have a chance to bury at least one team in our division already.
And we got to do it. We just got to take advantage, and we got to do it, but we got to go out, but we got to start hot. Anyway, thank you guys for checking it out. Give us your thoughts too, and make sure you also go subscribe to Brendon Nelson. Congratulations on hitting the 1,500 mark, by the way.
Yeah.
And also, if you're new, make sure you sub up my channel, ring the bell for notifications. You'll get me and Brendon every week doing these previews for our upcoming games. We love doing these previews. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing it otherwise if you guys didn't like it, right? Like you mentioned on your channel, right?
Absolutely.
Yep. And you're going to be streaming again tonight?
Yeah, I stream pretty much every night. Anybody can get it. Tomorrow we're going to be doing a stream to celebrate 1,500 subs. And new content pretty much every day.
Yep. Appreciate though what you do, man, for the Seahawks talk wise too. Just love. Reason I also do this with you, man, is because you and me and we are both realistic with what we need to do and what also needs to be fixed with our team when we need to talk about it.
Right.
All right. So until the next one, we're signing out here. If you ain't with it, you ain't infamous. And as always, go Seahawks.